Hi. Oh, hi everyone. I'm Trisha Levesque. I'm a big brevet judge. I've been judging acrobatics for 20 plus years now, and I'm also the Region 5 Technical Committee Chair here in the US. I'm based out of Detroit, Michigan. So thank you for having me. I noticed, or Bobby was telling me that you guys are brand new. Have any of you ever judged before for acro? No? Yes? A few?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
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 Okay, good. Because I know we're mostly gonna practice some level 5s and 6s. However, if we have some time, usually execution judging is you can transfer it to like any of the levels. So I have a lot better videos of some level 7. So if we have some time, we can like shift to that as well. And we can try, when we do practice judging, we can try using, I'll share my screen, but I have found what works best. What we have found that works best, at least the last couple of years, and we've done this course, is to take the link and drop it in the chat box, and then we'll like mute ourselves, go and judge, and then come back to discuss it. It seems to work a little bit easier than that way if like someone's computer is kind of lagging a little bit. So we can do it either way. Since it is recording, the screen share might be better, but I can send everyone the link that I used for the level 5s and 6 videos, which has been kind of hard to find. I've been doing a lot of digging. And so I found some great ones from the Vegas Acro Cup. So you can find it on YouTube. So I will where the stuff is and all of that. So I know a good starting off point. Do you guys learn about like execution faults and how many deductions to take? I'm just trying to figure out where to start off so that it's kind of a review and then just get right into practicing so that you guys feel confident in judging this year. Okay, so Reagan is brand new.
I was going to say, I think we have like a big mix. There's some of us who've been judging for many, like there's some who obviously like Reagan are brand new. So it'll be a review for some people if you're focusing to the new people.
Okay, so I have some, yes, I have reviews that I can show. Let me find. Let's do, would you guys prefer to start with the balance elements or the like dynamic elements? Let's see. Hold on, I have tabs going so I can share the screen with you guys. I'm gonna do a little mix of both. And this one, please ignore the date. It says 2017. A lot of stuff is still the same. It just shows really good positions for the starting positions that you're going to see a lot of in levels 5s and 6s. And so that's what I wanted to do. So let me get the share screen. Okay. Okay, so can everyone see? Oh, this was not, hold on. Sorry, that's the next one. My tab. That's the next screen. Let me stop the share. Hold on. Sorry. You can tell I'm share screening is a bit different. Let's see this one. Okay. Let me. Make that bigger for everyone. Okay. All right. So this is just, and everyone can see my screen, correct? Yes. Okay. Again, for the table of technical faults, it's actually, the page numbers are actually page 39 in the FIG code of points, page 39 through 41. And then for the USA code of points, it actually starts on page 66. So again, this was from a presentation about 4 years ago. So some of the page numbers have changed. Let's see. So for execution, we are evaluating the efficiency of technical execution, correctness of the line and shape, amplitude of elements, stability of static elements, confident, effective catching, pitching and throwing, landing control, and then falls and incompletion of elements. Okay. And with that, you're looking at like your hesitations, your steps, slips, flow of skill, and over and under rotation. Of course, in fives and sixes, there's not a lot of over and under rotation, but there are some with like the wrap skill. You're still looking at that. Same with like your body shape, line and angle. So correctness of line and shape, exactness of angles, performance relative to criteria for technical excellence. These guidelines for execution judging, I believe they're still Appendix 3. This will become your best friend. When you're first starting out, you want to go ahead and just look at those. And it's actually Appendix 1. So it's Appendix 1 in the FIG code of points on page 42. Let's see. So amplitude is for a lot of the dynamic skills, which is like your and in balance, your full stretch and balance elements, body tightness, fullness of movement, maximum flight of dynamic elements. Of course, in fives and sixes, they get credit because they are still learning. They still get credit for having minimal flight, but you are still, even with that minimal flight, there's still amplitude, and you can still take amplitude deductions if they have any. And then the stability of static elements, you can see instability tremors in climbing, the supports, static holds, and motions. Catching, pitching, throwing, the readjustments, touches, support of partners, loss of tempo and dynamic elements, and steps to catch a partner. And then the landing control, positions of landing, steps, hops, partner support. I tend to look a lot at landings when I'm judging. So just knowing like that they have control and or not bent, the top isn't bending so deep in their landings. Okay, and then falls and non-completions, these are pretty much, they haven't changed. Non-completion is 0.5, additional support is 0.5, coming to the floor unintentionally or illogically, but without a fall. You see a lot of that with balance elements, preventing a fall, 5/10, where you have 1 foot or hand slipping from a point of support, hands used to prevent fall, both feet, hands off point of support, partners to prevent a fall, 1 hand or knee hit the floor. And falls 1.0, fall to the floor is uncontrolled landing, both hands, feet, knees hit floor, they fall onto the partners, both feet, hands coming off point of support, partners do not prevent fall, and roll out of landing. The complete distortion of the element is 1.0. And again, once you've had a fall, you only have 1 point to work with in an element. So once you've had a fall, that's all you can take is 1.0. And again, the deductions, you're taking for small errors is 0.10 for each of the errors. And remember, you're looking at all of the partners, not just the top. You're also looking at base position. And you have significant errors, which are 2 to 3/10. Serious errors are 5/10. And there are some where you've combined a serious error and you have small errors that you can get, even without a fall, you can get close to that 1.0 pretty easily if you have a serious error and then a lot of small errors. And then also understanding the definition of one element. For 5s and 6s, most of their elements are, they go and do one element. A lot of this is talking about your upper levels where they are doing, there's, like 4 static holds. That's 4 separate elements, but it just looks like a whole bunch. So you have to make sure you understand the definition of one element. And like I said, with 5s and 6s, it's fairly straightforward. They do a skill, it's an element. They do their individual skill, it's an individual element. So they do theirs very like one at a time. And then for pairs, technical errors can be deducted on the top and base for each element, and it gives a list of the balance and dynamic. Groups, for one base position, deduction can be taken once for the overall base position and then each static hold of the top. And then another important one is deductions apply for technical errors in the performance of choreography, especially rolls, jumps, leaps, lifts, and turns. Now in level 5s, they aren't allowed to perform any extra, so you shouldn't see any extra elements or a lot of choreography errors. In level 6s, they're allowed to add extra individual elements. So if someone decides to add a forward roll, or it may not be part of their routine, but you can still take execution for that forward roll. And also if they trip, in choreography, if they trip, there is a deduction for it. I'm gonna have to, because it is actually in the Fig Code of Points as well. And it's usually significant or serious. So if it's impacts it and it's significant, it's 3/10 or 5/10 if it's serious. Okay. Ignore the all levels. The individual elements are a bit different now in 2022, but for level 5s and 6s, it is 1.0 for all the partners. For each partner, that's still the same in level 5 and level 6. Let's see. And then the Healy must hit vertical handstand and 360 twist with straight body, and the finish can be extended position or sit on the ground. Okay, now I'm going to show you some pictures, and you guys can kind of throw out your idea of deductions you would take. So, for example, you'll be seeing a lot of tuck, pike, or straddles in level 5 and 6s. So here's some example of like the more, not so good all the way to ideal. So the very first one, going from left to right, the very first one, what would you guys take for that?
Point 2, probably.
Okay. I'd be more on the 3/10 side of that one, or some can consider it. I would even see almost 5/10 just because the way that the tuck position is. Your ideal is going to be the one that's all the way on the right. So when you do see the one that's on the right, I wouldn't take anything for that. And then for the middle one would be more of my 2 to 3/10. Okay, the fun straddle. Now the for straddles, your legs ideally need to be slightly above level. So what deduction would you take for the first one on the left?
0.2.
Yeah, some might do 3 depending on where you're sitting, but 2 to 3, yes. And then what about the middle one?
I would still do a 0.1 on that one. Her shoulders are coming up to her ears.
Yeah, and her legs are still like at level. So you could even technically for just the straddle, yeah, 1/10. And some could say, well, 1/10 for the shoulders and 1/10 for the legs. But then if you were gonna take, I would take 1 on this one and probably 2/10 on the very first one. You could take 3/10 potentially on the first one, and if you did that, I could see you taking 2/10 if you, but 1/10 for it not being, it's still at level, and you kind of need to be slightly above, and it's because of the shoulder angle that Jen said. And then I feel like this little one, her knees are the knobby knees that don't fully straighten, because it feels like she is pointing her toes pretty hard in that last picture, but like if you were far away, you could kind of take a 10th for knees, but like that's the ideal straddle position. All right. And then the croc. So the ideal one, I know there's 2 different types of crop techniques, but in this example, the ideal one is going to be the one that's on the bottom. And then how much would you take for the first and the 2 top ones?
The first one on the left, I will do a 0.3.
3.
The one on the right, we'll do a 0.2. Legs are too high up and toes are not pointed.
Yep. Yeah, and I'd be on the second one, 2/10. I could potentially with the toes almost be 3/10, but 2 to 3, yes, and the same, and 2 to 3, because the very first one, you can have your body completely straight, but obviously her feet are below. And then there's the middle, or the one on the bottom that's ideal. I have also seen it where you could have your back a little bit more up and it would still be the ideal. Okay, the fun handstand one. Now these ones, you are looking at, well, one, this particular top, her head is a little too far out on all of them, but if you are looking at the shoulder and hips angle, this one right here, the third one, it is better. The hips and the shoulders are in the ideal position. The head, perhaps not so much. It could be in a little bit more for it to be that 0/10 or ideal, but this portion right here is more ideal than these 2.
In the third one, does it matter that the ankles aren't in line too? Like, aren't you looking for like a straight?
They can be slight. I mean, if her feet were together, yes. I mean, it could still be, this one is not 0 deduction for sure. What they're showing for this one though is making sure that the shoulders are here, and sometimes with the wider straddle the legs can be slightly, but it is, I would probably take I'd still probably take about 2/10 because her head's a little out and her legs are still slightly here. the middle one is, I mean, must be minimum 3/10, but I could see where it could potentially be slightly more. And that one's even borderline 5/10 for me. Yeah, that one, it's borderline. It's like that it's like in between, because she's doing, if you're looking at the execution guide, she's got the like head out and the legs, but and it's a little more than the 2, so I would think they both be 3, but I could see people taking more for like toes or head, or here's a little bit wider handstands. This one, the first one, just looks like hasn't quite fully gotten up to the handstand yet. But again, there's still deductions for it. There is, this second one's kind of a slight weird angle, but you might see it like that, depending on how the skills are facing you. So this would probably still be like a 10th, because her back is not fully extended. It's still slightly arched. So obviously she was attempting arch in this first one, which I would not. As the execution judge, you're not worried about credit or no credit, but this skill would probably not be getting credit, which in this case, if not getting credit, would be a 5/10 deduction. But you'll, get to know that, because that's not an arch. That's not what you're trying to see. This one, the legs are maybe just a slightly uneven, but it's closer. This one is definitely more ideal, but there's still probably a 10th. Because it looks like legs are slightly uneven and maybe just slightly above. This one's closer to that angle, but her foot, oh, sorry, did not mean to move that. Okay, front bird examples. This is more of the ideal. And this one, the legs are slightly too high. So probably a 10th. On this next one's a little hard to see. It's not a very good picture, but throwing from the hands, taking into consideration the base and the top. This is more ideal because the top is more on top of the base. And for dynamic, it is a technique for the top to bend her legs or not bend her legs. The execution error here is that the bum is, she's kind of piked in this way and her bottom's making her go the other way. This one's hard to see a bit, but which one is the more ideal tuck? The one on the left or the one on the right?
Right.
Right.
Yes. And again, I apologize that it's so that it's so dark. What execution deduction would you take for the one on the left?
Just for the tuck position?
Yes, just for the tuck position.
Probably a 0.3, I would.
Yes, agreed. And probably, I'm sure, because it's fuzzy, but I'm sure if there were feet flexed, all of that, it'd be more, but just for the tuck position is 3/10. And just for the tuck position, not counting where her hands are or anything in the picture on the right, I would not take anything for that tuck position. Okay. I thought there was going to be another picture right here, but for a layout, this is supposed to be a layout position. Not, so just for the layout position, what would the deduction be?
I would do a 2 or a 3 at least on that one.
Yes, yes, at least a 3. And I'm going back and forth, whereas, I mean, in the picture, I believe her legs are slightly straighter than what they're showing, but if her knees were slightly more bent, it could easily be taken as a 5/10 because it's supposed to be lay and her body is looking like it's supposed to be pike, but a minimum of 3/10 for the body position, yes. Okay. For the landings, ignore the bottom part where it says like the miss one arm catch penalty. That's no longer a thing. They're looking for more of the landings is like 5/10. When I take 5/10 is when the top wouldn't be able to like really make it on her own. So this landing is more ideal. It's ideal because they're landing, the partner's supporting the catch. This one with feet coming through is more like the 3/10. So the middle one is 3/10. And then this one, if the base were to let go, the top would be on her face. So they're clearly helping her to not, to not fall. So that's when I would take 5/10 on just the landing. So, like I said, I see a lot of the middle landings a lot, at least in my region. So I'm just used to taking 3/10 on those landings. So you want to be as close to this. Okay. Any questions about the execution? Different things. I'm thinking those are most of them, and then we can just ready to put them together in a routine. Let's see. Stop my share. Oh, thank you, Kelsey, for putting the code of points on there. I need to remember when I'm sharing the screen to actually check my chat box too. So thank you, Kelsey. So which would you guys prefer? Do you want me to try screen sharing, or would you like to just mute and watch the routine and then come back and discuss the scores?
We can try screen sharing to see if it works, and if not, we'll try the other one.
Okay, yes. Okay, let me grab my pen too, and I will try screen sharing. And if you would, probably because when I screen share, the chat box kind of goes out of mine. If you want to like unmute and say you can't hear, I'll try to turn up the volume, but it is execution, so we should be able to manage, but it's just always nice to hear music, even if it's the same. Let's see. Let me screen share again. Okay. Okay, and everyone can see this, yes? Okay, there might be a slight delay because I was trying to forward it because they had level 4s. And again, I didn't have the ability to cut and paste. So it was a live stream. So I'll stop and pause it, and then when we watch the next routine after, it'll show a score, just ignore it. And this, judge what you see, this might be the old rules because they allowed that last year.
So there is no music, Trish?
Oh, there's no music on it? Oh, no. I will try to figure that out. I'm sorry. Go ahead and just judge what you see. Okay, if you would feel more comfortable typing your score into the chat box, you're more than welcome to. Or if you are feeling brave, you may share your score out loud, and I might do the link so that you have music, because I'm not sure. I had volume on my end. I'm not sure why. it
I
didn't-
was just looking at this from, so my daughter's on the call too, and she's had a little bit of judging experience, but from brand new judges, like they won't know to take us, a deduction for some of the amplitude or the walking, or like, so the scores might be way off is what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Right. Yep. And that's totally fine, because as like a brand new judge, you have to like kind of exactly dive right in, and we'll kind of break apart the first couple routines of like what the
Even
deductions
Reagan,
were.
the scores out of what? Like, I don't know that putting the score up is what I'm saying is like, I don't think they're there yet.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I am so sorry. Okay, so that's good to know. Sorry about that. Okay. The score for execution is taken out of a 10.0. And you will be taking deductions. You have up to 1 point total for the elements, whether it's individual or the pair group skills. So looking at like the base and the top positions, you will be taking the deductions of if it's off, taking a little couple steps will be a 10th here or there, as long as it doesn't go over the 1.0. If they fall, it's just one. If they fall, I shouldn't say it's just 1.0. If they fall to the floor, so say like the top falls and lands on her bottom, that is considered a 1.0 fall. And then you can't take anything else off. So yes, my apologies. So some of you being brand new, you guys didn't know what the score was coming.
I think it would be helpful to just even have the one routine, if you could walk through like exactly the deductions you take on each one of them, so people can even understand when and what you're
Right.
taking it for, and then maybe try the second time.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And we'll
Trish?
do that again the second time as well, of breaking down the skills for sure. So Susan or Jen, would you guys like to break down some of the scores of what you took? But yes,
Trish,
we can, and I can try to like rewind too of like what we, like what we took and and why. And it does come out of, so when you're as execution, you then take that score, you subtract it from 10. When it's shown to the audience, the execution score is actually doubled, but you as an execution judge don't have to worry about that. You just worry about what the deductions are and then subtract it from 10.0, and that's your score.
Trish, can you also just explain really quickly, like as an execution judge, like the tool that we use to track? So as we're trying to watch and then we note something, like, is that on a, like, do we have scorecards,
Yes,
or is it
I will
tracking
get you. Yes,
sheets?
let me grab that the execution links for you, and I will drop them.
Awesome, thank you.
In the chat box, there is an execution form, and it's broken down into, I believe, 4. And it's because when I do practice, I just do my line and paper, but at the judging table, I have the execution form. I will grab that and put it in the link. And you will want to do, in the FIG code of points, they also show some shorthand positions, but for the lower levels, we tend to I make kind of my own shorthand to help me understand what skills they are. And when you're just starting out, it is good to have a shorthand, but it's better to focus on taking the correct deductions, than worrying about your shorthand, if that's making sense. Because sometimes one of my newer judges was so focused on trying to do the correct shorthand that she looked down and missed like part of the skill. So it is important to have shorthand to back up your scores, but when you're first learning, okay, when you're first learning, and I just like, hold on a sec. Okay, somehow there we go. Okay, I lost. Okay, let's see the execution form. Let me grab that.
So Susan, just while Trisha is looking for that, like, so are we as execution judges, are we also responsible to note in which skill the deduction is coming from, or is most importantly just like the total execution deductions?
Yeah, so like you'll hand in an execution sheet. All it does is say, I got you gave a 7.1 and your deductions, right? So you'd have your 6.9 and your 7.1, and you or the 2.1 and the 7.1, but you'd hand that in. If the CJP has concerns, like you missed a whole fall, you might be asked about it, but you never have to like write down what your specific ones are for a specific one for us. Yeah.
Okay. So like in what we just watched, then all I have is a total of, I think, 0.4, but I'm pretty sure I missed something because I was right, because I was trying to write it down. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and like Trish said, it's a lot of practice, but I think Trish, like, I don't know if we can rewind that video and like we watch a skill, pause it, and then you kind of go over the deductions you would have taken, because that way people can go, oh, I didn't realize, like, Christine, for every step they take, you're going to take a 0.1, right? Like, I think that might be useful for us to have that conversation.
That'd be super, super helpful.
Oh, okay, I will do that. And then, Christine, I will get that form. I just had the artistry one real quick, but I will get that. I will put that link in.
No rush. No rush.
Christina, I think we're on the same page because I also had 0.4 and I'm brand new at this.
Yeah, like I
Ooh.
saw a hesitation in the first balance, and I think there was a head up in like the stand. So I don't know.
No, it's fine. I will try to I need to share a screen too. But yes, I can do that. So very, very new. Okay, thank you I can definitely.
And the other thing I'm wondering is like how many skills are in a routine for like a level 5 or 6?
Okay, there is, I'm so used to, like, hold on. Yes. Okay.
5?
No, there is with individuals, it will be also knowing and preparing, going to the code of points on page, let's see, level 5s will be 18. On page 18, it goes over what skills they need to do. And there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 for level 5. And that's including their individual elements. So usually when doing some shorthand, I will put a line after they've done a skill, because once you've started seeing several level 5 routines, they're going to be in the same order. So level 5, you're going to know what's coming. So once you've practiced, you can start to, like, I'll start to write the shorthand for the skill right before they perform it, because I know, but I usually do a line so I know how many skills I have for each. And let me try to rewind this one and not go too far. Let's see. Okay, that's a different one. Sorry about that. I went the wrong way. This was hold on. That was not it. Here we go. This one was let's see. I think based on the old rules, but we can still watch it. Okay. Okay, so this is a skill. Okay, this is a skill. And like I said, this, the order is going to be a little different because I believe this one we had old rules and we still let them perform it last year. So the skill is climbing up to shoulders. So they need to climb up and show the top has to hold the position. And it's just to show control, and then they come down. So for that skill, I'm going to go back just a little bit again. Sorry, I'm having a hard time getting the.
Lauren, you're probably gonna know this better than me, but I think if you put your arrow button, it goes back 10 seconds on YouTube.
Yeah. Does it? Because it does. Where do I put that? Because that would be nice to have that. I don't even.
Like if you just click the back arrow on your keyboard, it should go back like 10 seconds or something.
Okay. So if I just do the arrow on my computer. Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you.
This is what I get for having teenagers who watch YouTube all the time.
Well, thank you, because yeah, I'm like, well, I can't cut it and I don't see the fast forward arrow, and this is going to be like, so thank you.
So if you find the routine, then it'll be easy for you to go back.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's after. Well, it should be after this one. Not, okay. Nope, that's not it, because it's not. Hope it's after this one. Now, Lauren, if I put it on there, will it go more than 5 seconds?
Like if you just continue holding it, then I think it should go more than 10 seconds or 5 seconds.
Okay, I think it did. I found it. I think I found the routine and I did hold it and it may have held it for too long. Okay. Here we go. Thank you. Was this the one? Okay. So for this, okay, how come on the other one? Okay, I missed their scale the first time. So their scale, how much would you take for the scale?
What's it? I missed a scale too, I think, but
I think I did too. That's why I was like, is this the right, like,
routine? No.
is that the right routine?
I
Lauren,
think
did
so,
you
but
say-
I think before we were saying, oh, there's no volume, and you were
Oh,
still
they're right
talking
after
and we missed this part.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, well, okay, I guess rewind, try again. We have a scale, which is it is scale and then they climb. What would you guys have taken anything for the scale?
Can you put it back again?
Yep,
So we
I'm
can
gonna
watch?
do the arrow. Oh, did not stop in time. Okay, I'm trying to hit pause. Okay, we'll try this one more time. Okay. There, I
So-
think I finally got the pause thing going on. Okay, so for the scale, that is a skill you have 1.0 to work with. So what would you take for both of them together? Because you only have 1.0. It's per partner, but you only have a total of 1.0 at this level for that skill.
So like just a 0.1, because the girl on the left-hand side's leg isn't maybe quite high enough.
You're correct that it is not high enough. The base is more for me. I would take 2/10.
Okay.
So for that right there, I could see 2 to 3/10 because if like the basis foot isn't necessarily pointed, but it's a lot closer to the floor than it is to horizontal. So for me, I would take 2/10.
Now, Trish, do you want to talk about like the stability of it as well?
Sure. Yes. And there was some for the horizontal, you could take, so Christine, you could take 1/10 for the leg being too low. For the instability of it would be like another 1/10. So very easily for that, for both of them together for the whole entire thing would be, I could see 3 to 4/10, potentially 3 to 5/10.
So are you looking at like when you, because the base's leg is higher, right? So is she getting 1/10 and the top's leg is lower and she gets 2/10? Or like, are you adding them together like
So
per person?
so for the base, her leg for me is high enough, but at least from my angle and what I can tell on this video, her foot isn't necessarily pointed. So it should be horizontal with a pointed foot. So I would take 1/10, and then the top for some instability and for the leg position. So altogether for me, I have 4/10 in deduction for the scale. So
And that, yeah, that's what I would have. Like the instability is like they're not, if you actually watch the video, they're kind of rocking on their foot and not solid. But I think too, like just one thing I'll say for the brand new ones is like, if you saw this exact scale on like a level 5, like 5-6-year-olds, you might not take the same amount as if you saw this on somebody who is, you know, older and like a higher level, because, you know, otherwise you have a lot of deductions at the younger age, right? Like I know it should be same, but I think too, it's
Do you find
you have higher expectations at the higher levels for sure, right? So
like, do you tend to have more deductions if there's like a trio, for example, because it's 3 people that have to perfect that skill? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I find myself having it, especially if they're, at this level, you're gonna see two, I don't know, whereas like 2 people are somewhat matched and maybe not the other. And I don't know, I tend to find more deductions when there's a trio, unfortunately, or like a mixed group, which is, it stinks. It's unfortunate, but there's more bodies on the floor. But your eye doesn't necessarily, when it gets to groups, doesn't necessarily catch all 3. So that's why there could be some differences with one judge at one side of the table versus a judge on the other side. And that's why you have 5/10. You can be in range with the 5/10 because you aren't going to catch with individual skills, especially, you aren't going to catch everyone do it when they do it in different directions. Right now at level 5, they need to stay. They're in like that line. But once you get to 6s, they start to move around, and coaches are smart and place them in certain directions so they know they can kind of hide those that maybe don't have the correct form. They can find a way to kind of hide it, which is good for them. So
I was going to say, you can only judge what you see. So you can't make an assumption that because 2 of them have done a poor scale, that the other one should also get a 0.1.
Exactly. So you just judge what you see. And so for me, I would have 4/10. It looks like Susan probably had 4/10 altogether. Jen, what did you have for?
I gave him 3. I skipped the civility.
Yep. So 3. So I think what would be okay here would be anywhere from 3 to 5/10. Depending on, what you saw when watching it. Okay. And then coming up next should be the shoulder. Or no, I guess not, toe pitch. Okay. So with that, when there's dynamic, you're looking at amplitude. At this level, they are still learning. So they have minimal amplitude. You're taking execution on, did they perform that? I'm trying to word it correctly because you can still take amplitude deductions, but you're not going to necessarily, it'd be nice to see them throw super high like you would maybe upper levels, but at this level, they're not required to. You're taking deductions if they don't extend the way that they should for amplitude, if that makes sense. I'll use the arrow to go back for this one.
By the way, a space bar is a pause.
Oh, is it? Oh, thank you. Ooh, thank you. That makes it easier. Okay, so I was doing that and didn't pay attention. Sorry. Okay. So what deductions? Let's see. So for that one, the base did step forward. It wasn't a huge step. The idea is to perform that skill without having to take a step forward. It should go up. So I did take a 1/10 for the base moving forward. The top position it wasn't bad, but I had 2/10 on that skill. And it could be, I could see 3 if Jen or Susan, if you guys took a little bit more.
I took 3/10 total for the whole skill. I felt like the top was a little looser than I would have liked to see her, but.
So you would have for the base
two
step,
for the amplitude.
2 for the
It's
amplitude.
alone, without a step. So 3 total.
3 total, yes. So the amplitude in it being tight, you can see, so 2 to 3/10. So a range for that, I could see 2 to 4/10 total for that.
Was there like, are we looking at hesitation in the entry to that too? Like it almost looked like she had to place her foot. No. Okay.
Yeah, they're at that level, they're still like learning, but normally there's some techniques that are, you don't really see it much in pairs, but there's like a double bounce kind of thing for when they're doing like a toe pitch back salto, and it's technique, so you wouldn't take that as execution.
But yeah, hesitation is one of the deductions you can take. But I agree, Trish, at this level, I wouldn't have taken it for, they placed the foot and then they threw, right? Like it wasn't a place and then replace and then go.
Yeah, if she would have replaced, then for sure, but since a lot of level 5s are like, you're gonna see itty bitties on the floor, that are still learning. And yes, some of them can be very tight, but she wasn't hesitating enough for me to take that deduction.
Can you do it one more time?
Yes.
Because it's nice to hear the number and then see it again. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this element they do, it's considered 2 elements, but they're connecting them. So the first element is when she cartwheels up to the handstand. So you would take deductions for that, which maybe a 10th, at least from my angle. And since it is video, I'm not there live, so I can't tell if, like, to me, it looked like her handstand was in a pretty good handstand shape. Maybe like a little wobble, so like a 10th. That's all I saw. Jen or Susan may have seen maybe something.
Me.
So
it looked a bit tilted to the left, like not fully straight, but
yeah, so like about a 10th, but from what you can see with the video. So that's one skill. The second skill is when she is straddling down to the straddle position. So from the handstand down to the straddle position is another element. That one, her leg was bent coming down, and foot, I'd probably have like 2/10. I'll might rewind it to look, but 2/10. And then I did stop it as she was coming out of her skill, and she still has kind of toes and knees. And you are, as an execution judge, are still allowed to take that because she's exiting and she could have straighter legs. So a 10th or 2 coming out of the last element as well. So total, I'm going to rewind. And the straddle there is not 2, and maybe just like a 10th. So maybe 2/10, and then the very first one I had a 10th. So on those 2 skills together, 3/10.
That's what I had too. It was fairly well done, I thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
When you pause it, you see more of the knee bend than when you let it go. So it's like, oh, it really wasn't that. Really wasn't that bad. So that'd be 3/10. Okay. And ready for the next one? Okay. Now the tops bridge is done fairly well. The legs need to be together. The idea is that the knees need to be straight and legs together. When looking at the bridge, you don't want your arms super wide. And the top is pushing back more towards her shoulders, which is more ideal. than the base at that moment. So it looks like the top's trying to extend her knees, and I look at it this way: if they're trying to extend their knees, because some very clearly do it bent, and then I for sure take a significant deduction. With the top, I'm more apt to take my deduction on the base, about 2/10 or 1/10 and 1/10, but I myself would have 2/10 altogether for the bridge. Jen and Susan may be slightly more.
Yeah, I had 2/10 too, but it's funny, when I watched it, I had the knees on the top and not on the base. But now I look at it, I'm like, oh no, like her knees are pretty good. So it's funny, but yes, I had 2/10 total.
Yeah, but I think later on, like a second or two after this, I think the base sticks her head out.
You are probably correct. Let's see.
There you go.
Oh, she does. Okay.
Yeah.
I probably still would have I'd probably have 1/10 and 2/10 all together. So 1 to 2/10 I'm good with. They performed the bridge fairly well.
So Trish, question.
Mhm.
So based on my math skills at the moment, so we're already like at least at a 0.7.
Mhm.
So is there a point, because we can only, right, we can clarify, we can only go to 1.0 total for the whole routine.
Per skill.
Per skill. Sorry. Okay.
Yes. So yes, no, yes. For each skill. So like the skill that was right before bridge, where they did the handstand, cartwheel and a handstand, that's one skill. So you could take up to a full point just for that. And then when they come down to the straddle, you can that's another skill. So you have up to 1 point on that skill to take.
Yeah, and so for example, Chris, at the end, right? Like, so if you had a 2.6, if you added it all up and you got 2.6, you would hand in a score of 7.4 with a deduction of 2.6.
There's also a nice cheat sheet.
I was gonna say,
yeah, to
yeah,
give
so
it
like,
to us. Yeah.
Oh, you can't see it, but I've put a little, yeah. So I created this one and I can send it out as well, but it's really quick to look. You don't have to go, okay, it's a 2.3. What does that mean? And
yeah, I can.
Oh, that's very cool, you guys. I might have to use that for one of my judges in Region 5, because he has math errors. Like, we'll be doing so good, and he's like, no, we'll go back with all the deductions. He's like, no, I took this. I'm all, well, then why didn't you add up? Like, you're not adding up to mine, and we took the same deductions. Go back and do your math again. So a cheat sheet, that's very cool. There it is. Okay. Let's see this one. Okay, so that boost skill was a skill. So I will go back for that one, because that one, the dynamic ones go fast. And the object is the base is boosting while the top is jumping, and she needs to let go and catch. To me, I thought it was done fairly well, because you also have to take into consideration how tall and how the partners are to each other. If you're going to have a little bitty with, like, say that base had someone that was even smaller, she should probably throw the top a little higher. But you also, so you not only are considering that they're a lower level, but you're also considering how much height you can get from throwing, but the top also has to be jumping at the same time too. I felt that was performed fairly well. So I had like a 10th on that one. Of course, I could be generous at this moment in time because it's level 5.
That's what I gave on that skill too, is that just a 10th.
Yeah.
Can you do that one again, Trish?
Yes.
So what for that one to not
Mm-hmm.
have gotten any deduction?
Let me go back.
Because I wouldn't like, I know I'm totally new, but I'm not sure
Or,
that I
well, I
saw
mean,
any.
you couldn't necessarily see it. I mean, the tops, to me, it looked like the top's legs had kind of gone out and then in, but if you didn't take anything, that's fine. That was done fairly well. A 10th is, so what, if we all had the same deductions and that one you had 0, and say Susan and I had 1/10 and Jen had 0, we're still, once you add it all up, we're only a 10th apart, and that's okay, because you can be within 5 tenths. Top like to wiggle a little on that one.
Mhm.
Toes were not fully pointed. A little bit of knees bend.
Yeah, I had about 3/10 by the time I got it to like, oh look, that's pretty good. But she'd already done all that other stuff before she actually like held it. Now again, the judges are this way, not necessarily like behind, and I am pausing it, but the landing, her legs aren't together. And so you can consider that a 10th, because their legs should just stay together and just land. So if I already had 3/10 and I saw landing, now I'm up to 4/10. So for me, I had 4/10 because she landed. And again, I did pause it, but I noticed the landing as she was coming down that her legs were coming apart. So I had
Yeah,
4/10.
when I watched it quickly, I had 4/10, but like when you slow it down, I was like, oh, that could be 5 or 6.
Yes.
But you'll
So-
find like when you're watching a whole routine really, really fast, you're not going to catch everything. So
Right.
versus
Right.
when
And-
you're picking it apart.
Yep, exactly. So 4, and that's acceptable too. 4 to 6/10 I think is fine, or even 3 to 6/10 on this skill, because as Susan said, when you pause it, you can start nitpicking. When you're watching it all together, it goes faster.
And there's a length of time that they're supposed to hold the skill for too, right?
Yes, they do. They do hold the skill for 3. Their static holds must be 3 seconds. As an execution judge, you don't really have to worry about it. Although, depending, and I haven't seen one obviously yet in the video, but there are cases where like an early, depending on how it comes out, there's times where I'll take a 5/10 for like early completion, because I know they're going up and they're just coming down. Like there's no hold. And as an execution judge, it's like, oh, that's not supposed to happen. It's like, wait a minute. But you as an execution judge don't have to worry about how long they hold it. That's the difficulty judge's problem. If they have a short hold.
So you would only catch the, like, if it's like, they're not actually getting to it, or like they're falling through it.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, like if they held it for 1 second instead of 3, you're not going to touch it as an execution judge. It could be perfect,
Mm-hmm.
but they could still get a penalty.
Short hold. Yeah. They could have like a perfect element execution wise, and it's a short hold and you're like, but you don't have to worry about that. Oh, sorry. Let me redo that, because it should be the whole thing going up and then coming down. They're just supposed to show control. There are some wobbles. The base wobbled when when the top was climbing up. And then so the instability and wobbles. I had 2/10, and then I don't know if they ever, I mean, they did show control obviously, but there was still another bobble once she got up there. So I had a 10th. So now I'm at 3/10. If I'm generous and not counting the landing, because her feet were a little bit apart, I'll stay at 3/10, but I could easily be 4/10. Not sure what Jen or Susan had.
I gave her
Trish?
3/10.
3.
And I had
2
4.
for the up, 1 for the landing.
Yeah, I had 4 in total.
I just have a question with that
Mhm.
one. When the top is standing on the base's shoulders, like it didn't
Mhm.
look like she was standing straight, like her bum was still sticking out.
Right. And so for that particular one, she's not required to stand all the way up.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Right. Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. At this level, they are just supposed to, which is always, if you're very new and looking at the code of points, you can see their elements and there's like a description. So the description will tell you what it should look like. And I just like need to blow up mine. So they're just going up to the base's shoulders. So it's just showing that they have control, and then the top needs to dismount in front of the base. And so basically the top needs to hang on to the base throughout the skill. So
Okay.
she's not going to let go. But yes, that is a good question, because there are skills where they do just go up to the shoulders. This one for level 5, they need to hold on to the hands.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that was their individual skill, was a round off. I'm kind
Knees
of
bend, feet. I call
yeah,
them flapos because they're like that. Landing with knees together, feet apart.
So where were you at? 3 or 4 or more?
I was 5.
Yep, that's fine.
I had a 5 on that one too when I watched it, but slowing it down, I probably wouldn't have been as bad, but I had a 5 when I did it.
Yeah, I'll take 4 to 6 because I slowing it down or doing it, yeah, when it was going fast about 4, but I mean the one landing right now, when you pause it, I'm like, oh, guess I should be a 5. I could maybe go up to 6. So a 4 to 6 tenths for the round off.
And that's why when you see the older groups, when you watch the older groups go, their coaches are so smart because they're doing their like round off back handspring, back tuck, all in 3 different ways at the exact same time. You can't catch all of those deductions.
No.
So yeah, whereas if you put it all in the same direction at the same time, you can catch more.
Yeah.
But the coaches are smart.
Yes.
I have another question. Sorry. Are we
Sure.
looking at the timing as well? Are like as the execution judges, are we worrying about if they're landing at the exact same time and taking off at the same time? No? Okay.
No, nope. Later on, that will come into play in the upper levels. For artistry, you wouldn't reward them as much because they would not be in sync with each other. But as execution judges, we don't have to.
Okay, thank you.
worry with it. Oh, I had forgot that's a skill. Sorry, guys. Let me rewind that because I looked down really quickly.
My worst skill to judge. I hate that.
Oh,
skill.
I know. Okay. Yeah, this one's hard to judge. Honestly, it's the wrap. What it's supposed to be and what I just saw was probably not the best example of that. That skill should be, let's see, I need to look under I'm curious, Susan and Jen, what did you take for that?
So right beside I didn't do my shorthand, so I think like right after that they had. Can you play the rest of it? What did they have after that?
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I'm going to rewind it for the beginning because it is the wrap skill. Okay, they need to jump and then pick up to wrap.
Yeah.
And I don't know why she's holding it.
Yeah.
That's
So
not a balance. That's not a balance element, guys. That's supposed to be a dynamic skill. She's supposed, so I don't know why the top was holding it in the wrap, but she is supposed to, the base holds the top under the arms and the top is supposed to jump and go to wrap. I was pretty harsh on this skill. I know that it's hard to get some amplitude, but I feel like the top didn't even jump. I feel like the base just picked her up and put her in the wrap. So I'm at like 7/10. But that's
I gave a
I'm-
0.5 on that, but
I had a 0.4.
I told you I could be a little rough. I could take 4 to 6, but if watching it again, I guess she did kind of jump. I was a little mean. I would do the 4. I would do 4 to 6/10 because you can argue that her legs were kind of bent. So 7 was harsh.
and
I
Trish,
feel like-
can you talk about the exit on that one? Because like this is what I say, this is the worst skill I and I've never got real confirmation. Do you also take execution for the exit of that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
'Cause you see some beautiful exits, you know, where there's like, you know, it's lifted and it's controlled, and then you see like that.
yeah, I mean, her legs, that she's not even tight. The
Yeah.
top isn't even tight right there. So you could easily take a 10th or 2 on the exit of the skill. The wrap skill is a hard one to judge because when I played it back again, she did jump. It just looked, when it went fast, it just looked like the top kind of
Okay.
stood there and the base lifted her up, which is why I took a harsh 5/10 just for there not having like amplitude. But then when I saw it again, I took 3, and then the top's position in the wrap was like 2/10 because she held it there too. It should be straight with super tight legs, and coming out of it, you could easily take 1 or 2. So now I'm up to 6 or 7. So I'm thinking 4 to 6/10 on that skill. And this should be the last skill. So that skill there, sometimes you'll see the top will kind of arch her back so it kind of sways. I thought they performed that one fairly well. A 10th for me.
That's all I did too. Like I felt like I wanted to reward them for something that was really well done. 'Cause
Right.
She was in a pretty good position at the very end. She kind of started sticking her butt out, but I was like,
And I was looking
like
more,
a
I
little
think,
wobble, but not much.
yeah, and I was kind of looking at like the base's knees. I was like, were they right where, like, I don't know. I was looking at the base position too, but you're right, of rewarding maybe, but a 10th, she was fairly tight and she held it. And
So does every skill have to have a deduction?
no, you may even write a smiley face.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, I tend to sometimes be known as the lower judge, but there's absolutely, when I see a skill done, I put 0. You do not have to have a deduction. So those of us that have like a 10th, you could very easily have 0/10 on there, and your total, you should still come into range with everyone. But yes, you do not have to give a deduction for every skill.
So Trish, if you just can go back your 10 seconds again. So within this last skill, is the goal for it to be horizontal, or is the head's always going to be higher because the knees are higher? Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah. I've seen it done too, where they do more of like a hollow type body where the head will be higher, but the top will kind of hollow her back a little. I've seen that too, and I tend to like that too because it keeps them, because they squeeze and then but it's technique. They just have to squeeze tight and not have their back like super low. They just need to show like a tight,
And Chris,
pointed
the way
toes,
I think
straight
about
knees.
it in the lower levels, where you're like, even the question where somebody asked, should they be standing up on top of that? Like if you look at the physics of them, they physically can't be
Right.
horizontal in this skill,
Yeah.
right? So you're not going to deduct because it's not perfectly horizontal, whereas you're really figuring out, looking at the body position more.
Mhm.
Are they
Yeah.
arching? Are they putting their butt out?
Yeah, are they not squeezing their bottom? Are their toes flexed? Are their knees bent? Because you do have to look at the body, body mechanics of it. You can't physically do something, that. So with all those deductions, that was the end of the routine. What was your total, like add up all your deductions and what score did you have?
7.1.
And I was a little harsher. I was at a 7, but yeah.
Yep.
So now, Chris, I think you guys said at the beginning that some of the new people who didn't know you could deduct for a step or something, you had a 0.4. Now you can see how you can get up to, 3, right? In total.
Yeah, I hope that explains it. I do some of your new, but yes, break it down, but going skill by skill. Yes, this for sure.
And by the way, just because I know it took me a while to figure it out, is the way that I do it, because you do have to do it pretty quick. Like you only have like a minute to hand in your skill or less than that, or your score. So I just add it all up. Like I do like point forms, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, like the old stick things. And then I just go, okay, I'm just add them up like 10, 15, 13, 18. And then when you get to 18, it's a 1.8. So that's how I do it. Other people I've seen actually write 0.4 and then add it up that way, but you'll figure out what works best for you.
Yeah, I just add it and count, fairly similar to like Susan. I count it up, and if I'm at like 25, I know that that's 2.5. So I go 10.0 minus, 2.5. So that's how I count it up. The 30, then just put like, oh, okay, 30 is 3.0. But yes, I feel 7.0 to 7.5 is a good range for that routine. Their score may come up when I fast forward, because the next routine is trio, because they were going panel to panel, and I don't want to just like start throwing that at you guys. So I will fast forward to do another pair. And do you guys want the same breakdown, or do you want to watch, or do you want to try judging the whole thing for my newbies?
Yeah, let's try.
Yeah, try
Judging
and
the-
then we can go back after.
And then we can go back after. Okay, so let me
I have
fast forward.
one more question. Is
Yes.
is a 7 a good score? Okay, so just to show you how new I am, I've never been to an acro competition.
Oh.
Like my daughter is brand new this year.
Oh,
So
wow.
this is like all new. I used to figure skate, so I figured I could manage this, but yeah, so is like 7 a good score?
I would say, like, I would say that for this level, 7.4, 7.5 is a good average, score. You will see some that are higher. They may be coming up sooner. I do know at the Vegas Acro Cup, we did have some that were in like low 8s, which is really good for level 5. So I feel like 7.4, 7.5 is really good, especially if it's the beginning of the season. I feel we just had our first competition, and I think it was all national, RUS national rated and higher, and then myself and Carissa, who are both international judges, and we might have been kind of harsh on the first meet, but then they can improve. I mean, but they were also very little and didn't necessarily perform as well as these guys. So we were at like, I want to say our average score was 6.5, 6.6. So if you're doing 7.4 and 7.5, I feel like that's an average routine. They didn't do anything super terrible. Their individual skills could be cleaned up a little maybe, but I mean, and I don't know what you think, Susan, because I haven't judged a lot of stuff in your region.
So I mean, what we'll see in Alberta, because we are really still quite new to this sport, is you'll see a really big range actually, right? Like you'll see some kids who are like really good, they'll get up to the higher sevens, but you might see also the way other range, and you'll see that at even all the levels, because we just have such a range. Like we're not mature enough to have like a big grouping of people at this same, like at a same score. So I think as we develop more and get more people in the sport, we'll start seeing that equal out. But it's still, I'd say in Alberta, a 7 is still a decent score. Yeah.
I saw in the chat, I originally had 8.6 after watching 7.2. It's hard too when you go back and go through it too, and then like rewatch it. But I think you guys are on, yeah, I feel like 8.6 would be a little high, but I feel like in the 7s, it's a good job. And we have a big range in R in the US as well. And there are some clubs in here that are from the other end of on the other coast of Canada, like Oakville, who they're pretty clean for level 5s and 6s. When I see them come to Vegas Acro Cup, in the US, we're always like, whoa, they're so clean. Like, we're not used to seeing because again, it's a lot of our littler guys that are developing, and we'll have 7s in our upper levels too, especially again at the beginning of the season if people are moving up levels or haven't, and they should improve. So I'll fast forward and maybe we'll see what their score is. The scores will pop up and we can see what they actually got when I'm fast forwarding to get to the pair and not throw trios at you.
Trish, Susan, and Jen, do you guys have any tips or tricks in terms of how you're scanning? Like, do you look for the more like detailed pieces, like toes pointed or feet apart, before you're looking for the overall like line of the element? Or like, where do you start? Like, I guess, where do you start sort of looking?
You can look for flex feet. I mean, getting into the elements, flex feet are pretty easy to catch. But you kind of want to wait till they're like with a balance element, because they are supposed to hold it. I kind of see what they're doing as they get into a position, and then I take the deduction, if that makes sense. But if like the base is moving while they're trying to get into the position, obviously the base shouldn't be moving, if that makes sense. Like if they need to, if they take a step forward or kind of stumble, then okay, that's already 1 or 2 tenths and they haven't even gotten into the skill yet. So I just record that. I mean, that's how I do it. I'm not sure how Susan does it when she's first looking, if she looks at the overall.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's why I do the points, is because as I see it, I just mark it down. And then I guess like if they're in especially like a balance where you can see the whole thing, then I might step back, look at it all, and then put my points down after. Because I think I look at body position first, and the toes naturally extend off of that, right? Like when you look at the body position and you're like, oh, she's arch, she's not supposed to be arch, and you'll see the toes off of those as well. So that's how I do it. But honestly, for the new judges, practice is the only way you're going to do this, and then asking questions after. So hopefully you guys, once you get a little bit more of this, come to some of the competitions, do some shadow judging with us, and then we'll do a debrief after. Like, that's the best way you're going to learn.
Yes, absolutely.
Also by looking at just Googling on YouTube routines from every level and just watching and try to judge what you see. And it will come to a point that you see a routine perform, and I call them flappers, when they have like the flat feet or the knee spin, or you see, like all of the routines, and it will pop out to you as, oh, that's not good. I can see it even before they get into it. You can see it coming.
Thank you.
Okay, let me try. Oh, I think the score from I was gonna look at the score, sorry. Oh, okay. It was, they averaged a 705. So we did fairly, oh, sorry, guys. I went too far. Okay. All right, we'll judge the whole thing.
Trish, can you play the first two skills one more time?
Sure.
I missed the very beginning.
Oh, sure.
Sorry.
Oh, nope, you're good.
Is there any way to make the screen a bit bigger?
Yes, actually I can. Hold on one second. Oh, the first two skill.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it's, oh yeah, scale's the first skill. Was that good?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And now that I figured out full screen might help a little better. Okay, so just a general between this pair and the other pair, which one do you think was better?
This one.
This one, way
Definitely
more
this one.
polished.
Okay, well, look at that. Good job. We've at least, you know. Okay. They were, to me, much better polished and obviously had better amplitude, but also the top is smaller. So that's where you're going to see the difference in amplitude when the top is smaller and the base is bigger than the, compared to the other group. Where were your scores at?
Mine's probably
8.8.
way too nice, but I got like an 8.9.
I got 8.8.
I was 8.7.
8.8.
And I was an 8.5. I'm the harder one. So
But that's okay because that's okay because we broke it down so much with the other one. So, and that is something when you do see a very polished, very clean routine, that definitely goes to, do you have to give them a deduction on everything? No. But that's when your mind will try to trick you and say, but there has to be a deduction somewhere. Like there has to be a deduction somewhere. But even between an 8.5 and 8.8, that's a 3/10 difference. Where like that's good. I guess I didn't realize this was the cleaner routine because I was like, oh, let's try the other one. So now I might trick you again and we'll watch one that might go back. But this was a very clean routine. Did you need to go through this through the skills or anything?
Okay, so I had a 9.2, but as you know, I'm very new. So better than the first time. So in my mind, I'm like, now I'm comparing this pair to the previous pair, right? But I suppose the more that you see, then you're going to kind of figure out that. But is that what everybody does? Like, would you compare like kind of based on the group? Like,
yeah, because, okay, so if you're going to have, because I don't know if they were the same age group or not. It seems like this space is older, so they might not have been in the same age group, but but they could be, and you could have like 30, and it is always hard to judge that first one because you need to judge what you see, but then everyone's going to kind of compare to that one. And my first question to you was, do you think this one was better or worse than the first pair that you saw? And everyone answered better, so that means your score should be higher. If you answered that this one was better, then your score should be higher. So yes, I mean, I kind of compare, and with more practice, you'll get, you should be judging them the same, obviously, but they were a lot cleaner. They had more amplitude in the skills, and
so was there any skills that you didn't take anything off for? Like, because there was some that I'm like, oh, that was perfect.
Yes,
I don't know what I'm looking
Their
for.
handstand to press. I didn't take
the
any
press.
points
I
off.
didn't take anything down for the press. I took nothing. Her handstand on the knees and her handstand down to the press. I took nothing. I may have taken a 10th. I think I took a 10th on the boost, but this boost was a lot better than the last boost, and this wrap was a lot better than the first wrap, because the first one we had, what was it, like 4 to 6 tenths on the first wrap from the pair previously, and this one I took like a 10th. So I definitely had way less. But yes, I had, and I had nothing on their last skill. I didn't take anything for the last skill, which was that where the top has her hands on the knees and the base is holding the top's legs. I didn't have any deductions there.
So on our actual score sheet, will it list all the names of the skills and then you're writing beside?
No, that's why you have
doesn't?
kind of the shorthand, but once you get used to judging level 5 routines, you can, you'll kind of prepare what skills next, and you'll kind of already have your shorthand ready. Because once you've watched several, you'll know these ones, the skills are in the same order. Same with level 6s, just they'll move around the floor more. All right. Oh, and we had some 8.6s, 8.6s, 8.7s. So we went and ranged from 8.5 to 8.8. So you probably would have been thrown out with the 9.2, Sonia, but you're very new, and that's okay. I am in agreement that they were very clean. There's just maybe some subtle 110. So yes, I'll keep the full screen and let's do another one. And those are little itty bitty guys. Okay, so that other pair got a 17.8 at the competition. So they had an 8.9. So you weren't too far off with your 9.2, Sonia. Sonia. I'm afraid of going too far when I hold it. There we go. All right, scores.
But I think, Trish, before you do that, because it's interesting, like Chris, you said you had an 8.5 again. Like if everybody had to think about this in terms of like ranking those three that we saw, where would this one fit?
In the middle.
Yes, I had this one in the middle.
Yeah. So Chris, you'd see like if you're looking at them and saying, well, they were not quite as clean as the other one. If you had an 8.5 last time, you should expect the score to be a little lower.
So what happens at the end if you end up with a score and you're like, ooh, that's not right? Like it just didn't feel right. Like there was a couple things that I don't know exactly why I took them off, but it just didn't look quite right. And it, yeah, like if you ended up with the same score as the previous one, then at the end you go back and change it, or you kind of can't at that point.
For me, if it doesn't feel right, I kind of, and it obviously this one for me was not as good as the other one, but I have them better than the very first one, so they were like in the middle. Then my score obviously needs to be lower, so if I was tied, there would be something that I missed that for me, then I'd be like a 10th or 2, depending. And again, it also depends on like what my score, like, okay, so we had like 7, 9 to, or 7, 8. Yeah. So, I mean, low 8s or high 7s, I might've been more nitpicky. I had a 7, 5. But that was my middle score versus, cause I felt they were closer to the first group than they were to the previous group, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So for me, the other ones were like, I feel like at my 8-7, and my other one was a 7. I was about a 7-0 on the very first group. These guys, I felt weren't 8-7, and I felt they were closer. So my 7-5, they're still 5/10 better, but they're a point. I felt like they were a point. If that's making sense, because I know, Sonia, you're trying to say like it didn't feel right, then your first guy is probably correct. You probably needed to, if you felt that this needed to be a little lower, then you could be a little lower. Now it's going to change, because at some point we're going to be like live scoring where you just like enter it on the computer as you go, so you can't really do any take backs, if that makes sense. But sometimes there are ties if they're super close execution wise. There are ties for your own scores, just because you could have taken off a pointed to like a flexed foot for one group, and then the other group didn't have that, but they had other errors that just added up to the same. If that
I was going to say, Sonia, like it's easy when there's 3 routines because you know where they place. And so for in this one, if I had tied, I might have thought, oh, was I being too nice? Like sometimes you're like, okay, it's a 0.4 on this one, but it could have been a 0.5 or a 6, but I'm just gonna take 0.4. When you add it all up, you're like, ooh, like, okay, I'm gonna go back and take that 0.6 because they should have been a little lower. But when you have 20 that you're judging, it's really a lot harder to place them. So you're not gonna do that. But when you have 3 very clear ones, you might say, oh, like this one really isn't the same as the other one. I'm gonna figure out where I was too nice, right?
Right. Okay.
If that makes sense.
Makes sense. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so I had a 7-5, but it looks like from what was in the chat, a 7 range of 7-8 to 8-3. You guys are all within 5/10. So you guys are judging together are doing very well. So like I said, I tend to be harsh with landings, and I was also a lower one with 8-7 on the last routine. So I was low on the first routine. So it tends to differ that I'm low on this routine as well. But I think high 7s, low 8s for this routine. Yes, but it definitely needs to be a good more than 5/10 difference between this one and the previous one we just saw. Where were you at with that one, Sonia?
I had an 8.
Okay, that's fine. And you had a 9 too on the other one. The 8, the 8 put you right there, because there was a 7-8, a 7-9, an 8-2, an 8-3, an 8 right in there goes right in. You're on the right track.
Awesome.
Yes. Do you feel comfortable with pairs? Would you like to do a trio, or would you like to do another pair?
I think we should do a trio so the new people get a feeling for for what it is or how it looks like?
Yes.
Yeah, I would
Okay,
think so too.
let me make sure this trio is that's going up is a level 5 because there was like 4s and 5s mixed in there, but let me just double check. I want to say it's a level 5. It is level 5. Okay, so for the newer judges, the one where they're in like the platform where the 2 girls are holding the top standing on like their hands, that one, they're just supposed, the bases are just supposed to like bend their knees and come back up. So that one's supposed to show control. So just in case you thought it needed flight, it does not. So you're just looking at the body position of tightness. And good job on that other teen. I was too low. That other teen had scored an 8.05 for execution on that pair. So see, Sonia, you were right in the average of what the panel of judges saw. I see some scores coming in. Okay, so what I have so far from everyone, and yes, it was trios with their individual skills. Did you find it harder or take more than you would or did on pairs? It looks like we have a range from 7.5 to an 8.6. Feel like the 8.6 is a little high. 7. I was a 7.9. Jen or Susan, what were you guys?
Oh, 7.6.
Oh, you were 7.6. I just saw your name. Sorry, I scrolled up and was like, oh, there's the name.
Yeah, and I was a 7.8.
7.8. Okay.
I will say, just for everybody who's new, by the way, there's sometimes, even if you've been judging for a long time, that you're way off. Like, you might just watch a routine and go, whoa, I just did not see that, right? So, you know, be gentle on yourself too. Like, even after you might have judged 20 routines and then you'll be like, whoa, I'm just way off. And so you might have the CJP going like, what did you see here?
Yes.
It happens. So
yes, Susan is correct. It does happen. It happens to me, especially when I'm judging 30 routines. There will be at least 2 that I am like, I don't even know what just happened. Don't even know. Like, it even happened last weekend with this. I was off from 2 of the judges and I was like, we were in range like the entire time. We saw like everything. And then like by the end, I don't know what happened. We got like more than a point where I was like, oh, that was a 5/10. Or they took a point and I took a 5/10. I'm like, well, so yes. Or I could just be out, and it does happen. And that's after 20 plus years of judging. It does happen. So do have grace. It's okay. And the one who felt really high at 8.6, that's okay. You felt that you were high. So you did know that there was something that, you might have missed or didn't take enough on. So recognizing that you felt high, that is good. I could maybe see the 7.5 to 7.9. I could maybe see an 8. Did you need to break this one down, or because it was trio, was it a little bit different for those of you that are new or starting out? Or
Can we look at the stand at this one?
the which scale was it?
Like the stand where they stand in the circle and put their legs up. Right?
Oh,
Is that stand?
the scale. Oh,
Scale,
yes.
sorry.
Scale. Yeah, yes. I have to find where. Let's see. Is that towards the beginning? Let's see.
Because I'm not sure that the top even completed it. So I just wanted to hear what people thought.
Do you remember where? Oh, the scale was 1,
at the
2,
end,
3.
I think. Closer to the end.
It was after. It was before the bridge. Oh, was that it or no?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess she eventually got it up. It was wobbly. Okay.
But I felt like all 3 of them were kind of wobbly and all over the place. So I think that's why I deducted quite a few points.
Okay, so what did you take for the scale, Sonia?
I don't know. I'm using Susan's tick method. So I'm not really just like as an overall.
Maybe
So
I
I'm not
should
really sure what
clarify, by
points
the
to-
way. I do like if I know, especially like I want to separate it by things, I'll do like 3 points and then I'll put a line underneath it and then go vertically down and do 2 points and then a line. So I can separate the skills.
Gotcha. Mine are just all blended
And then
together
you'll
right
start doing shorthand next to it too, so that you know what that skill was, but not now.
Yes, not now it's focused on this, but yes, eventually some kind of shorthand. So then that way, if like the CJP or someone comes back to you for feedback, what did you take on that skill? You're like, oh, well, wait, which one like was it? But again, we're just focused on you'll get your own shorthand down eventually. I still don't have it completely. Like, I have my own shorthand, and I use like, it's a combination when it's these levels, a combination of like the FIG and my own for the skill. But so that you understand what it is. But I mean, on the scale, I had 3/10, but remember, you have to take for each partner, but you only have 1 point to work with. So, and I could have been kind of nice on the scale, not sure what everyone else, but maybe you had hit, Sonia, that's where you hit them a couple tenths more, because I could see that they were all a bit low.
I got 2 per person, so total of 6.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So see, and I had 3, which is probably too nice. So I should have had 4 or 5, and then that would have brought me down to about a 7/7.
So, but maybe Trish, do you want to, because I remember thinking about this when I was new too, is address like if one person never even made it into a scale, what would you do as an execution judge?
Yes,
So-
that is rare. Yes. Did they attempt it or not attempt it?
Right. So that I think maybe walk through that with everybody, just because it can happen at the lower levels, right?
Yes, and they can also, another big one is touching the foot, like the back foot, because for scales, they are supposed, it's a balance skill. They're supposed to hold it for 2 seconds. So any balance individual element needs to be held for 2 seconds. And again, as execution judges, you don't have to worry about the short holds. That's the DJ. But with scales, a lot of times you'll see them touch the foot and come back up. So like, because they're trying to regain their balance and they touch a foot, that's going to be 5/10. So you're already at like, one partner did it 5/10, but if there's still other issues with other things, you can still take that. If one doesn't attempt it at all, they didn't do it, you can't judge them for them not, like, this is not, like, say the top was standing there and didn't, just stood and the other 2 did a scale. Well, you can't take the scale off from the one person because she didn't even do it. That will be that again is difficulty judge. We'll work with that. If they attempted and just like barely lifted and like, to me, depending on if they wobbled and came back down, probably 5/10. If they fell on to the floor, then it's 1.0, you're done. If one of them falls, it's 1 point and you're done. Hopefully if that answers your question, because you have to judge what you see, and if one is not attempting to do it at all, you can't judge them for a scale they didn't do, if that makes sense. The other 2 will have done it, and the DJ, the difficulty judge, will take care of the difficulty portion. So you as an execution judge would just go, oh, that's strange, but you can't take for something that wasn't there. If they attempted it and were like, again, if their foot is touching the floor, it would be, to me, 5/10, it's a foot touching the floor.
Yeah. So like if you had 3 of them there, one girl, 2 girls had their scales up and held it, but maybe not good. So you might have taken like a 0.2 in total for those 2 girls, but the other girl went up and then lost her balance, touched back up again. You'd have the 0.5 plus the 0.2. So you'd have 0.7 as a whole. Now, if that one girl went up and then like lost her balance completely, fell to the floor, then it's a 1.0 for all 3 of them together.
Yep. At this level.
I'm a little bit confused. So you just said if one girl just didn't attempt the skill, we would still judge the 2 other girls for how they did, but that's it?
Yeah, so if there was a point, you just give the 0.2 if there was just a 0.2 deduction for those 2 girls.
Right.
Okay.
But she'd get a much, you'd see the penalty coming off the difficulty judge, but you don't get to do anything for that.
Right.
Okay, sounds good.
Yes. All right. Okay. So, question, because I know it does take a little extra, and and I'm totally fine. It has been past the 2 hours. Do you need take a quick break, do a couple more? Do you feel confident enough? What would you like to do? Because I'm here to help you guys feel comfortable.
I have to get going as my daughters have a competition today and gotta get them ready.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah,
by all
but-
means.
Yeah, but hopefully this whole thing will still be recorded so I can watch it after I come back if you guys decide to stay.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think I have to go as well as Lauren, I think as well, but thank you, Trish, for your
Oh.
time you did spend with us.
Yes, and absolutely. And if you just go on YouTube and look up Vegas Acro Cup 2022 day 3, you will have all of these level 5s and 6s, and the scores pop up when the next routine goes, so you can kind of see how the panel judged them. If you wanted to practice, I believe there's level 6s later on, because it's like the whole day. There was some block competition before, so everything starts at like an hour 45 on it. But that's just on the YouTube and where I got this. If for the newer judges, if you want to practice those.
And
So I
in
do have a
Alberta, we
couple-
might have, by the way, just some other training opportunities, hopefully. Like, I think that Kelsey and I are going to talk to Bobby about some other courses as well for brand new judges. So like, this isn't it that you're gonna.
Well, we have a mock meet this weekend,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna go tomorrow, and that'll be my first kind of go at this to practice. So
Yes,
Yeah.
and my friend Sarah Thomas, she is also, if you ever want to ask her questions, not only as a coach, she's also an international brevet judge as well. So I know she will be there at the mock meet tomorrow as well. If you have questions, she would be happy to help you too.
Trish, there was a question from Kelsey. She said,
Oh.
do you have a copy of the new FIG execution and artistry judging?
Oh, yes. Let me try to get that link.
And then she also asked, well, I can't find it anymore, Kelsey. Maybe you can speak. Oh, can you review how individual skills are now judged? Performed in a series versus performed separately?
Oh, yes. Okay, I'm gonna try, because we had a discussion at our national judges course too. Okay. Are you asking for like the levels 5s and 6s in that, or just in like in regards to like as a whole?
Level 5
level
to 8.
5 to 8. Okay. So according to the rules in the 5 to 6s, it is the 1 point, because they don't really do their individual skills in a series. At level 5, they have to do what we just saw. They have to do a scale, they have to do a round off. It's individual. So in the US, under the US rules, for the level 5s and 6s, it is 1 point altogether. It's per partner, but altogether just 1 point, how we've been judging. When you get to 7s and 8s, it changes a little bit different. It is if you do a series like round off back handspring or round off back handspring back tuck, that's considered, when there's more than one element not broken up by a choreography, it's considered series. And the series for the round off back handspring, you would take 1.0 as a whole per partner. So if you're in a trio and you do a series, you can lose up to 3.0. If you are a pair, it'd be 2.0. If that's making sense, if it's in a series.
So in a series, it's a 1.0 per person, basically.
Yes, and same with answering Kelsey for like 9 and 10, it's like 12 to 18. Yes, once you get level 9 and up, it is they went back to 1.0 per partner per element, unless it's in a series.
So if
So
it's a round off back handspring back tuck,
that's like one element.
that's one
You
element.
think of it as like one element, and then you have 1.0 per partner. I know it's so confusing. But for the lower levels, for 5 I even reread the code of points in the US, and it even says for like level 5s, because they just do one element at a time where it's placed in the routine. It's one, they didn't want the kids to get nailed so hard that it's 1.0 per partner total. Like we were
That's
doing.
only 5s and 6, level 5 and 6.
Yes. Mhm. And then
Now-
sevens and 8s, you're basically judging very similar, and that's where we were kind of somewhat getting a little confused at our own national judges course, because it's, if they're doing a series, it's 1.0 per person, but if they're doing it just by themselves, it's like the 5s and 6s. Does that make sense? So say
So
like
if
a
it's a
level,
scale, it's
So-
1.0 together. If it's a series, it's 1 per person. Is that right?
yes, thank you. You got it. That was a good way of putting it, because we were getting, yeah. It is confusing, but for as execution judges right now for 5 and like for 5s and 6s, just know that it's 1.0 total. And then Kelsey, hopefully that answers your question too for 9 and up for
Yes,
FIG
yes.
is,
Yes, it does. Now,
So then Trish, can I ask a question? Like if you have a higher level, like the 9 and 10 and the FIG, just to confirm, if they did a headstand, all 3 of them, you can do
Mhm.
1 per person,
yes,
1.0 per person.
yes.
But if you go below level 9, it's 1.0 together as that headstand.
For the individual, yes, but then when you do series, how you explained it, when you do a series like round up
Yeah.
back handspring or round up back handspring back tuck, that's considered one element, and you do 1 per partner.
now
I don't know
for-
why they didn't just make
I
it
might
like
write this out and email it to you to confirm that Kelsey and I understand it, Trish, if that
yes,
works.
yes, actually, yeah. Let me give you my let me give you my email address. And yes, because I'm gonna go back to our updates from the national course that we just had, but I think how you were saying it is correct.
Okay,
It is
yeah,
correct.
and then
If you
I can have Bobby send it out to everybody and we'll
Yeah.
try and make it really clear. So that as an
Yes.
execution judge, you know when you can take a 1.0 per group or 1.0 per person.
Right.
We'll make
Once
it
you
clear.
yes, because for 5s the 5s for sure, you are just doing how we judged it now. How we did it is you only get up to 1.0 to get total. Per part, it's still per partner, but it's 1.0 total versus. Oh, and then I'm trying to look for that execution form because it was on.
I know I have one more question about the individuals.
Okay.
For like 7 and 8, can they put balance and like flexibilities together so it's in a series? Like if they did headstand, press down to splits, like pull up to straddle, does that count as a series or is that all individual?
Okay, so technically, we also had this discussion as well. If you don't, as the definition stands, if you don't break it up with choreography, it is considered a series.
Okay.
However, coming from Carissa, who is our FIG category 1, she was saying that sometimes it's hard to connect those as like a series. So that was, so on her end, it would just be, she wouldn't kind of consider it as, you know, individual elements, but how you just said, it is considered a series. So I will definitely, when you guys like email it out, and I definitely confirm it, but the definition that I have is that if it's not broken up by choreography, it is considered a series. And the main reason why they did that was because now when you're upper levels, you can do tumbling elements in balance where you couldn't before. So that's the whole reason with their series. But now coaches, which is very true and very correct, coaches are finding a way, which is connecting a series of balance like flexibility, agility, flexibility, balance, and like agility. They're finding a way to connect them without a break in choreography, and it would be considered a series.
Getting smart. Yeah.
Mhm. And I know for the newbies, I know that's kind of, it's okay. Just keep practice judging how
I've
you
just
were
ignored
judging.
everything you said.
Yeah, just ignore everything I just
It's
said.
way
Those execution forms, because I should have them on.
I have another question.
Yes.
Okay, so my daughter is in level 6 and I was watching like her routine and then the other pair's routine. So they're doing like obviously similar skills, but there's one balancing one where my daughter's doing a tuck position and the other pair, the top is doing a pike position.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like left for the difficulty judge between like tuck and pike. And we're just judging like how well she does the pike versus how well she does the tuck.
Yes.
Like the pike looks more impressive to me. So I was like, oh, well, their routine looks better. So can my daughter get the same amount of points even if she's doing a tuck versus the pike?
Yep. Because the tucks are they're interchangeable at level 5. They can use, coaches can pick a tuck, a pike, or straddle.
Okay. And then, but then for the difficulty judge, like would the pike get a higher score?
Not at that level.
Not
No?
at that
Okay.
level. Nope. Nope.
And so is the judging for level 5 and 6 pretty much the same? It's just that level 5 does all the exact same routines and then level 6 has choreography, like their own choreography. Okay.
They have like their own choreography and they're still not being judged on artistry until level 7. But yes.
And Sonia, a lot of new parents are like, I remember this question coming from parents in my thing going, oh, well, you know, I saw that this other group added a whole bunch of cartwheels and round offs and it, you know, they must get higher scores because they're doing harder things.
Right.
Well, now that you see it as an execution judge, if somebody throws in a cartwheel in there, you get to deduct for it. Their scores might be lower, right?
Right.
So, I mean, they can't do that in a level 5, obviously, but you like throw in those other elements. But as you get higher up, adding in extra harder things may not be a good thing. You might actually see the score lower.
Right. Okay.
I don't know if that link will work for the execution form. I may have to email, I may need to email Bobby because that came from like my drive, that current.
We'd have to ask for access. So unless you want to grant us
Oh,
all
yeah.
access.
Yeah. Let me try. I thought it was one that I could have just, let me try a different way. Let me just actually download it. Yeah. And they have, so they have to like the lines on this, to put your deductions under, but I tend to just put it right under the skill versus in those little boxes. Let's see. Trying to copy the link. Let's see. Any other questions while I download this? Let's see. Okay, for some reason, yeah, I can't get that link at the moment. Yeah, I'll have to, if I email it to Bobby, can Bobby get it out to you guys for that? Yeah, okay. I will email him that right now so that he can get you guys the execution sheets. For sure. I know, I'm not sure how they do it there in Alberta. I know at some meets you have to bring them, or sometimes the meet will provide them. I'm not sure what you guys
It depends on the meet. So when you get asked to judge, I would ask if you're expected to bring your own. I always have some in my backpack because some do, some don't. It really depends on the club.
Right. Yes. But yes, I'll email him like the actual like link, because for some reason I just had it on my Google Drive instead of and in my own form. So so that way you guys can have it. And in the meantime, while you're practicing, you can just use a blank piece of paper to write it down for now until you get to the meets. And like I said, I'll make sure Bobby gets that since since it's protected. So, and yes, if you guys have other videos and stuff, but I know that the one on YouTube is the one it's hard to find. 5s and 6s also on YouTube. If you type in USA, I'll put it in the chat. If you type in USA gymnastics level 5 routines, it should pop up with some of our elite athletes that it's to help coaches know what to put in. That's also like how the positions are like ideal. So if you wanted to look at level 5 routines and what the ideal should look like, they have the men's pair, mixed pair, women's group, women's pair. And it should just be under when I just typed in USA gymnastics level 5 routines for, acrobatic gymnastics. So.
Thank you, Trish.
You're welcome. And yes, just as Susan and Jen said, if you just shadow and practice and just you can find YouTube videos for upper levels, and just judge. And like I said, Vegas Acro Cup, they have the live streams. You can do more than just day 4. You could do day 5, day 6, and they'll have the things that pop up. So. There was a question, I'm not sure, Susan or Jen, if you know, it just says, how do we set up shadowing?
I think just put your interest in with Bobby, and then he'll let you know about upcoming competitions.
Sorry, that was me, and I don't know why it just says
Oh.
phone. That's my name's Andrea. Sorry. Okay, so just message Bobby.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think so far there is, the mock and meet this weekend, and then there's one at Salto.
Yeah, the
March
acro in the
4th
park.
and 5th.
Yeah.
And then I was just looking on my computer, I can find it with Peter here in Calgary.
Mm-hmm.
And then Provincials Glamour Club here in Calgary, April 29 and 30th.
Okay.
I'm not
Sounds
aware
good.
of any other competitions happening so far. Are you, Susan?
Yeah, you do good.
Yeah, I think that's it.
That's it.
In Alberta, I think that's it. We're doing the Kelowna one as well, but that's in BC.
Yeah.
One step forward, one step forward.
Thank you.
One step forward, one step forward, one.
All right, you guys are welcome. And like I said, I'll get that attachment for the execution sheets. I'll send that to Bobby, and hopefully it's been helpful. And if it's been recorded, then you can go back to those routines and see how we broke down the skills, and it also has the slides of like the ideal like tuck positions and handstands. So
Thank you.
thank you for
Trish.
having me, guys. It was nice meeting everybody.
Bye.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.